Good morning, everybody out there in YouTube land. We still have another minute or so before we get started, but today we are going to be talking about pain management and how that relates to mental health. So, just kind of think about any questions that you might have regarding pain management and think about the connection that pain and mental health have for you. How does pain impact your mood, your ability to think clearly, your ability to sleep well, your relationships, your energy in your environment, so to speak? Pain can be a very pervasive little bugger. And good morning, Arshad. Welcome. I'd like to welcome everybody to today's presentation. We are going to be talking about pain management. Pain is important for a variety of issues, and it seems like my stream is way behind. So let me see here. All right, let's go. Well, good morning, Zachy. Welcome. Let's go ahead and start this again because my stream is having difficulty this morning. I'd like to welcome everybody to this presentation of Integrated Behavioral Health. I'm your host, Dr. Dawn Elise Snipes, and today we are talking about pain management. Pain is something that we really need to pay attention to in terms of mental health, and that's not something we often connect the dots with. But when we are in pain, it impacts our ability to get good quality sleep. It impacts our immune system because pain triggers that HPA axis and causes immune system suppression, can lead to increased inflammation. So pain itself can actually increase pain, which is somewhat contradictory, it seems, but it happens. Pain increases stress and anxiety. A lot of times when people are in pain, not only are they frustrated about being in pain, but then they may start worrying about, oh, what if this is a big deal? Or worrying that they aren't going to feel any better, worrying that it's going to get worse, worrying that their friends and family may be upset with them because they can't do everything that they really want to do because they are hindered by pain. Pain also impacts our ability to think clearly. Obviously, if we're not getting enough sleep, we're not getting that good quality sleep, it's going to make us feel foggier because we're not clearing out the adenosine. And just the simple fact of when we're in pain, it is hard to focus on other things sometimes, especially if that pain is significant. All of this can contribute to problems in our relationships, irritability, frustration, and what I call negativity in our environment. So let's talk about some things that we can do that are non-pharmacological ways to approach pain management. Now, it's not to say that some pain is not going to require medicine, some sort of pharmacological intervention. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying there are a lot of other things that you can do to give that medicine or just your body a boost to deal with that pain. So there are a lot of ways that you can address pain either in tandem with medicine or instead of medicine. So let's talk about the physical ones first. These are the ones that you kind of probably automatically think of. Heat and cold. And right after an injury, typically you're supposed to put cold on it. You're supposed to ice it for 72 hours. And then after that, you move over to heat. Obviously, any of these physiological interventions, talk with your doctor. Ask them what's going to work best. When it comes to heat and cold, my doctor is always like, well, whatever feels best for you, go ahead and do it. And I tend to gravitate, when I get neck pain or when I've got a muscle spasm, I actually tend to prefer cold over heat, but that's me. So knowing that heat and cold is out there, and you can use electric heating pads. You can use, you can even take a stocking or a pair of old tights or something that's stretchy. I find something that's stretchy works best. Fill it with dry rice, and then you can pop that in the microwave, even put a few drops of essential oils on it. Pop that in the microwave for, a period of time. It doesn't take very long, so be careful. And then when you put it on, you're getting the benefit of not only heat, but also pressure, which can help relax those muscles. So heat and cold, consider that. Exercise. Yes, exercise can help with pain. When we exercise, it increases endorphins, it increases serotonin, which can help dampen systemic inflammation. When we exercise, it keeps our joints lubricated, so to speak, which can contribute to a reduction in pain. You know how sometimes when you get up in the morning, you feel really stiff and achy and it's hard to get moving. Gentle, and the emphasis here is on gentle exercise, gentle movement like yoga, tai chi, walking, swimming for some people, but that can get a little bit intense, can help keep those joints mobile and can help reduce some of the muscle spasming and pain and inflammation. Stretching. Again, gentle stretching can also help. A lot of times when our pain is caused by muscle imbalances, for example, you've got a muscle spasm or you've got pain in the front of your arm, when you stretch, it can help balance those muscles. I have scoliosis, so one side of my spine, the muscles tend to be tighter than the other side of my spine. So stretching can be very helpful to release tension and release muscle spasm in pain in my back. Additionally, when we are stressed, we tend to tense our muscles. And the opposite of tense muscles is stretched muscles. So if you do take time out throughout the day to stretch your muscles in your upper back, in your chest, roll your shoulders back, open your chest up to let the energy and let the oxygen flow through better. Because a lot of times when we're sitting at our desk, we tend to get hunched over and, these muscles get tight and those muscles get unhappy. Sit up, roll your shoulders, move around periodically. It can even help to set a timer on your phone or when your fitness tracker tells you to get up and move around. Well, hey, do it. But don't forget the upper body. It's not just about moving your legs. It's also about sitting up, taking your posture into consideration. Sleep is essential. Sleep is when your body rebalances, restores itself, repairs itself. It can focus on maintenance when you are sleeping because it's not focusing on digestion. It's not focusing on thinking as much. It's not focusing on other things that occupy your energies throughout the day. So good quality sleep is essential to pain management. You know that when your sleep is inadequate, we've talked about this before, your HPA axis will be activated. Your body's going to try to basically simulate what caffeine would do. It's going to try to help you stay awake by having that HPA axis activated. That's going to suppress your serotonin, which is going to make your pain tolerance go down. It's going to make you feel potentially more painful. So sleep is important. Massage can help, and it doesn't have to be, a fancy massage you go pay somebody for. You can get foam rollers. You can get even tennis balls. You don't have to get fancy, and use that to massage certain areas. If you have some muscle tension, if you've got some pain, that can be helpful. Even just pressure on my back, for example. There are times where I will set tennis balls, and I will just lay back on them and let the pressure of the tennis balls kind of do their thing. So whatever it is that works for you that can help. I don't have it on here, but I've talked before about what do they call them? The incline tables. Those can be super helpful especially if you've got low back pain, because it helps kind of decompress your spine a little bit. I am, as I've gotten older, become a huge believer in those because I find they help me quite a bit. And then acupuncture and acupressure have both been found to be very helpful at releasing some pain and relieving some pain. So there are a lot of studies that show that massage and acupuncture and acupressure can be helpful at relieving pain. Thinking about any of these, and remember, just like anything else that we talk about, you want to start slow. You don't want to start exercising and do an hour the first day. You don't want to decide that, okay, I'm going to stretch and I'm going to keep stretching until I can get my nose to my knees the first day. That's going to be overdoing it. Do a little bit every day. Set mastery goals, something that you can do a little bit more each day in order to work up to an ultimate goal. That'll make it easier to maintain as well as easier to kind of do. When we're talking about affect and cognitive strategies for pain, remember, stress increases that HPA axis, increases muscle tension, and when that HPA axis is dysregulated, it increases systemic inflammation, which is going to increase, drumroll please, pain. Stress management is an essential component to pain management, whether your pain is muscular, whether it is autoimmune, whether it is degenerative joint issues. When your HPA axis is dysregulated or hyperactivated, you're going to tend to feel more pain. So mindfulness is really important. It's important to start each day, and this is all of these can be preventative measures. But using mindfulness every day to do what you can to minimize your stress that day. How can you use your energy? You may have feelings of anxiety, of stress, of anger that pop up. Okay, remember, accept those feelings non-judgmentally. That's your body's way of telling you, hey, there might be a problem here. Emphasis on the word might. Then you look at that situation, you make sure you're safe, and you decide the best course of action to address it to improve the next moment. Dwelling on it, probably not going to be helpful. Nurturing that anger, probably not going to be helpful to the situation or to your pain levels. Mindfulness is super important. Start out your day. Envision what the day is going to be like. That can be super helpful. Envision a positive resolution. Envision yourself being safe and empowered and content throughout the day. Start your day in a positive mindset. Be aware of things that might be triggering for your stress throughout the day and have a plan for how to deal with those. Know in yourself what you are going to do so you feel calm, you feel equipped to handle kind of whatever life throws at you. Notice throughout the day when you do start getting anxious or angry or tired or whatever the dysphoric emotion is. Address it right then. Don't wait till it is unavoidable. When you start noticing, take steps to do what you can to improve the next moment. Which takes us to stress management. There are things in our life that we can do to remove some of the stress triggers that exist in our life. Whether we want to or not, whether we take the steps to do it or not, that's up to you. But I think the vast majority of people can evaluate their stress triggers and evaluate the things that happen during their day and say, you know what? There are things that I can do to eliminate some unnecessary stress. And then making a plan, envisioning, rehearsing how to handle stressful situations can also be very helpful. When I go traveling, I can't find my way out of a paper bag. I have no sense of direction at all. Stress management. Before we had GPSs, I would get really freaked out whenever I had to go anywhere. Now that I've got my GPS available, I don't stress as much because I know, okay, might I get lost? Might I take a wrong turn? Yes. However, not the end of the world because I can get rerouted. And think of life that way. It may not be just traveling, but have a GPS in your brain, if you will, that can reroute you back on the path towards that rich and meaningful life. When you start to feel stressed, when you take a wrong turn and you start nurturing resentment or anger or immersing yourself in something that is just going to stress you out, okay, I went there. I took that wrong turn. Now let me turn on my mental GPS and get back onto that path of a rich and meaningful life that helps me use my energy with purpose to move towards those things that are important to me. And be willing to let go of the things that I cannot control. There are some things that we really want to control that we just can't control. And, there are a lot of things out there. So it's important to recognize that there are things that you can do proactively to move towards your rich and meaningful life. And then there are some things that you really would like to change, but you have no control over. So is using your energy to try to control the uncontrollable a good use of your energy? And that's that purposeful action we've talked about. As you reduce your stress, you're going to reduce your tension. As you reduce your stress, your HPA axis will downregulate. Your body's ability to respond to cortisol, which is supposed to be an anti-inflammatory, will return to normal, but it takes time. In addition to being mindful, to eliminating any unnecessary stressors, to having a plan for how to deal with stress and having that mental GPS, it's important to also add in happiness. And we've talked about this over and over again. When we add in happiness, it causes our body to secrete those endorphins, that dopamine, the serotonin, the GABA, all of the stuff that is going to help us feel better. By the way, GABA is one of our natural relaxation hormones. And it's sort of our natural benzodiazepine, which is like Valium, Xanax, those sorts of things. It can help with muscle tension and muscle spasms when you are allowing your body, if glutamate is there, GABA is not, because GABA is made from glutamate. Glutamate is our stress neurochemical. So if our body recognizes, hey, we don't need as much glutamate, we can start to relax, then guess what? Not only are you going to relax mentally, but you're also going to have that surge of neurochemicals that's going to help your body physiologically relax. And that can be so helpful. It'll slow down. It'll alter the microbiota in your gut. So, all of that stuff can slow down. You can actually take time to, quote, rest and digest. GABA is a wonderful thing. Stress management is a wonderful thing. But when we also, on top of that, add happiness, it's kind of like taking vanilla ice cream and adding whatever toppings you like on top of it. It makes it that much better. It increases the dopamine, the endorphins, the GABA, and the serotonin. So not only are you just allowing those levels to rise, but you're actually kind of turning them up a little bit when you add happiness. Whatever it is that makes you happy, if it's YouTube videos, if it's sunrises, if it is cooking, doing things every single day, 10 minutes or 20. If you can get 20, that's better. But at least 10 minutes a day doing something that makes you happy, even if it's jamming out to your favorite songs, which is something that I do with regularity. If it brings a smile to your face, if it makes you feel happy inside, if it makes you feel warm inside, that is going to help reduce your HPA axis activation and increase your pain tolerance. Environmentally, pay attention to ergonomics. So important to pay attention to how you sleep. Do you have a good pillow? Do you have a good mattress? Are you rotating your mattress like you rotate your tires? So you're not sleeping in this, divot that your body has carved out for you over the last 6 months. Ergonomics are really important. And I've told you guys before, when I'm not doing these presentations, I have a stability ball that I sit on because that forces me to sit with my feet on the ground instead of sitting like crisscross applesauce or some weird contorted position while I am working on the computer. It's also harder for me to slump and do those sorts of things. I find that works well to help me with my ergonomics during the day. Ergonomics is important throughout the day, though, not just at your desk, not just in bed, but also where else do you spend a lot of time sitting or laying down? If you travel a lot, if you're in the car a lot, then pay attention to your ergonomics in the car. Do you have a comfortable seat? Do you have the lumbar support that you need for your spine? And I say for your spine because remember I said earlier, I've got scoliosis and my head, my spine is not shaped and does not curve the way everybody else's spine necessarily does. So a lot of times in cars, for example, the way the headrest is, pushing my head forward is very uncomfortable because my spine doesn't naturally do that. Know what works for your body, for your spine. And nature. We've talked about this one in other videos, but it's worth bringing up because there have been multiple studies with people who have been in the hospital in particular that have found when they were able to be exposed to nature, especially if they were able to get out into nature or have lots of greenery in their hospital room, it actually reduced their perception of distress and it reduced their use of pain medicine. Imagine that. It actually reduced their use of pain medicine in a clinically significant manner. Nature can be really awesome. If you can't get out into nature, maybe you live somewhere where everything is covered in snow right now and it's bitterly cold outside. I get it. You may not want to go out in that. The next best thing would be looking at realistic pictures and videos. If you can get VR, the virtual reality headsets, and immerse yourself into a nature scene, that can be very helpful. If you add to that essential oils that are based in nature, like pines and lavender and other things that you are seeing, you can make it an immersive experience. But they have found that being in nature does reduce the use of pain medicine and does tend to improve people's moods, reduce their stress, and reduce their cortisol levels. So exactly what we were talking about with stress management. Relationships are another thing that you want to look at when you're talking about pain management. A lot of people, if they have chronic pain, struggle with guilt and anger and resentment and depression. And, I have many videos on pain management that are much longer, so I'm not going to go into all the mechanisms behind that. But it's important to recognize that pain can be a real thorn in your side. And it can be frustrating. You may not be able to do the things with your significant others that you used to love to do, like rock climbing or hiking or whatever it is. And so the time you spend with them may start dwindling away. If you can't do those same things anymore, you may not see them as much. So you have to find different ways to engage with those people. A lot of times people feel guilty when they can't do those sorts of things. And guilt, remember, is anger itself for something that we, in this case, can't do, that we think we should be able to do. It's important to address that guilt and not assume that other people are angry with you because you can't do the things that you want to do. A lot of times people are a lot more understanding than you might think, which is why supportive relationships and open communication are so important. communicating, I feel guilty about this, or are you angry? Are you distressed? Talking about one's feelings and figuring out how you can address those issues instead of just stewing on them is going to be a lot more helpful. And finally, boundaries. That's the last thing that we're going to talk about in terms of addressing pain management today. But in our relationships, when we don't have good boundaries, it adds to our stress. When we feel like, our friend is moving, and even though I'm in a lot of pain today, I should go help that person. And we're kind of driven by shoulds. You go, you help that person, and you're in a ton of pain the next day. It's important to set boundaries for what is useful and helpful and meaningful to you. If you are, maybe you help some that day, but then if you're flat on your back for the next 2 weeks, were you really all that helpful? Was that really working towards your rich and meaningful life? It's important to know what you can do. And I guess I should have put it under environment maybe. One other tip that I've talked about in other videos is basically time management. If you have pain and you need to do something and you want to try doing something, assuming you have medical clearance to do it, great, go ahead and do it, but don't overdo it. And I am really bad. My husband will laments at me every year when we get into planting season, because I will go out and instead of spending 30 minutes in the garden, I will go out and I'll spend 4 hours. And then, my hands will be all swollen up and everything. He's like, really? Again? So I am not the best example of what to do. I'm a better example of what not to do. But go start slow, just like everything else, and add to it. So if you go and maybe it's spring cleaning and you want to start cleaning the house, instead of saying, I need to clean the garage today, say, I'm going to spend 30 minutes cleaning the garage today. And then if you wake up the next day and you feel fine, great. So maybe you can do 45 minutes the next day, and then keep adding 5, 10, 15 minutes each day until either you reach the amount of time that you want to be spending, or you reach that threshold. When you reach that threshold where you wake up the next morning and you're like, oh, maybe I pushed it a little too much. All right, you reached your limit, got to back off just a little bit. But that helps you figure out your limits without overdoing it. And that is really essential to feeling empowered and not feeling trapped by our pain. Try things. It's not necessarily always going to work out. After I tore my meniscus in my knee, I would go to the gym and I would try something, and some days it would be okay, and I'd say, okay, I'm going to do this for 15 minutes, and other days, I'd get on and I'd feel pain immediately, and I'd say, okay, well, today's not the day. So you need to listen to your body when it comes to pain management, but it's also essential to address your stress, not only your stress and distress associated with the pain, but stress and distress in life, because as stress goes up, pain tolerance goes down, and pain actually goes up, not only because your pain tolerance is lower, but also because you've got more inflammatory cytokines circulating through your body, causing inflammation because of that HPA axis dysregulation. Thank you all for being with me today, which is, I know, a holiday, and I appreciate you taking time out to learn more about strategies you can use in order to address things that may be contributing to mental health distress. Now, remember, I said at the beginning, pain is often your body's signal that something is wrong somewhere. And it's important to pay attention to it, to have it checked out. Sometimes medication is necessary, but these are all tips that you can talk with your doctor or your physical therapist about using with medication, or sometimes instead of medication for minor pain. in order to manage your pain and use as little medication as possible and improve your mood. Alrighty, everybody, have a wonderful day, and I will see you tomorrow morning.